Hello, I'm Mario Tanaguzzi, managing editor of Canada's Podcast. Joining me today on Calgary's podcast is Darby Lee Young, who is founder and principal accessibility strategist for Level Playing Field. Thanks for joining us today, Darby.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure to chat with you today.
All right, let's just talk a little bit about Level Playing Field, what it is that you do and what it is.
Sure. So, Level Playing Field is an accessibility consulting firm. We work across the country and a bit in the States on accessibility. So, we review drawings for accessibility, we do building audits, we do festivals, music festivals, pop up festivals. All different things, including also accessibility plans for our Accessible Canada's Act, provincially and municipalities as well. And just all areas of accessibility, whether also being education seminars or teaching at U of C, or just going in and having the conversation. Accessibility is a key component, and
Mhm.
there's so much more to it than just the wheelchair. So trying to explain to clients and potential clients how important it is to talk about inclusion and design spaces for all.
So tell me, like who typically do you deal with? Do you deal with like property owners and landlords? Like who are some of like I guess the range of clients that you have?
We have a wide range. So we have anybody from from landlords to architects to space owners to government. It really depends on who is paying the bill for starters. So a lot of the times we'll bid on RFPs with architects, or the government will come directly to us. The federal government will
Yeah.
come to us and ask us to bid. Or like per se, one of our biggest clients is University of Manitoba. They came to us with an RFP, asked us to respond to audit the entire campus
Oh wow.
for accessibility, and we've been working on that project for the last couple of years.
And how did you start this, and how did you get into this?
So I started Level Playing Field in 2015. I have cerebral palsy, so I get around mainly on my scooter, but I also have a manual chair too in some aspects. I was tired of not being able to go out and enjoy life and have fun with my friends. And I was tired of always taking the time to have to plan and move stuff around. And if somebody called and said, let's go for dinner, we'd have to go to a regular spot instead of trying something new. And so it was all about trying to mitigate those barriers and try and take them away. We're never going to be 100% correct,
Yeah.
um, but at least we're making steps and strides with space owners and architects to understand the difference of including somebody with lived experience versus just building to code.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and you did mention just briefly there. It's not just about wheelchairs. Like, what other kind of things do you deal with? In terms of accessibility.
Well, a lot of the times too, like we've got to look at, well, physical, we've got to look at hearing, we've got to look at blindness, but we've also got to look at the invisible ones as well. So we've got to think of like even autism and neurodiversity and how people move throughout the space. Ever since COVID, I think we'd all agree that after we were shut in, to now go out into public and be in giant spaces with a lot of people can be very overwhelming. And so working to make sure that everybody feels warm and welcome within the spaces that they want to enter. And frankly, Mario, you are temporarily able-bodied. You're considered a tab. So, because sooner or later you'll end up like me, whether it's age or, you cross the street and roll your ankle because you're texting at the same time.
Yep.
Um, or it's a ski injury, like because I'm a former ski racer.
Oh, yeah.
So sooner or later you're going to end up like me, and the biggest thing for us is trying to design so that and work with the architects and space owners and stuff like that to understand the importance of it, and that if you just build to code, you're actually built, code is considered the floor, not the ceiling. And there's so much more we could do to make the spaces inclusive of all.
Do you, as you look at this whole issue today, is it more acceptable, I guess, in the sense that companies and businesses, et cetera, are taking more time to address this and realizing the importance of this?
Yeah, I think that's a huge component. Like it's definitely come more to the forefront in Canada and the US. They've had the ADA for years, over 30 years. So they know, and in the American side, they're scared because of course the Americans sue. In Canada, we're starting to roll with the ACA, which is only for federally regulated corporations. So it's still got a long ways to go, but more and more people are understanding that I'm an equal member of society too, and that I've got money to spend.
Hmm.
So why not let me be a part?
Yeah.
Um, I think one of the biggest misconceptions, though, is everybody seeing about certification, and certification doesn't necessarily equal accessibility. Because right now, certification is a great starting point, but there's 100 times more things to it than for accessibility than there is just a snapshot of the day.
Mm.
And that's a misconception that we're trying to clear up.
Yeah. Now, what's the business case for this? Like, obviously, obviously, there is the right thing to do part of it, right?
Yeah.
But also, like, to be blunt about it, it makes business sense for a business to be more accessible, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%. Because, like I said, I've got money to spend just like you
Yeah.
do. I might walk a little funny, or my scooter might want to make friends with your ankles. Um, but I still want to go to hockey games. I still want to go to concerts. I still want to be out and about with my friends. I want to go enjoy patios on 17th Ave. All that fun stuff. I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And when we don't design um, for spaces that include everyone, then there's barriers. And I'm really tired of being told, oh, sorry, just go to the back door. We'll let you in there. There's a ramp because that's our loading dock.
Yeah.
Why should I have to do that when you can go through the front door?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you've come across like research or anything like that, but for businesses and different places, what is the cost, I guess, for accessibility? Is that one of the reasons they don't do it, or?
Well, like anything, yeah, when you've got a project, the first thing to get cut is sometimes the interiors and spaces.
Yeah,
And when you look at the accessibility, there's aspects, especially in washrooms, and the difference between an accessible washroom and a universal washroom in sizes and elements.
yeah,
And yeah, a lot of the times people don't want to spend the money because they don't believe that people will actually use them, which is a sad state of affairs now. If you think about it, usually if you incorporate the accessibility early in the design stage, so back down in like concept, or as I call it, napkin stage, then it can really be fluent throughout the project. If all of a sudden you decide at design development stage
yeah,
for the architect world, which is just before construction, it's usually too late
yeah.
um, to incorporate it because those are change orders and stuff. And I laugh every time I hear somebody say on time, on budget. I'm like, okay.
Exactly. So, Darby, what were you doing prior to this?
Well, I was a former para-alpine ski racer, so I spent a lot of my years when I came out, just the end of high school into university. Spent my years racing across the country and down the states, and then
Cool.
ended my career actually down in Winter Park, Colorado, in an accident, which is fine. After and by that point, I had numerous concussions that we never checked for.
Oh, wow.
Um, but ever since then, I've been very lucky because my father worked for Hockey Canada,
Oh,
and I have spent majority of my time and still today volunteering in hockey and actually tennis because I have a family member who's a tennis player. So
oh, cool.
I've spent, yeah, a lot of my time doing that, and then also helping my mother. She's got a company called Greenery Office Interiors, which is like moss walls and live plants and all that in like some of our major hotels and office spaces. So that's been a ton of fun too.
So, I'm always curious about athletes, that be, and what they do afterwards. And I'm just curious from your, from your perspective, what did you think you learned by being an athlete and by participating in sports that have helped you and in what you're doing now in terms of a business?
I actually thank you for that question because for me, as a person with a disability, if it wasn't for the sports, I don't know where I'd be. So a lot of the times when families of new children with CP or disabled children
Yeah.
call up and say, "Hey, what do we do?" My first thing is get your child involved in sports,
Hmm.
so that they can be, have friends, get out, meet people, do all that type of stuff. And for me, it's been a huge driver because it also taught me, how to do things and how to focus, how to do quite a few things at once.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm a multitasker, which I probably am not so good at some things, but some things I'm really good at. But it taught the drive. I think you really learn the work ethic out of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And I find that, and I'm bad for it because I can work, you know, 16-hour days, depending too, some days, because I just get focused and I roll
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
just go. But then there's days where I'm like, oh my God. But it teaches you, I think it teaches you independence too, depending on the sport. I was a ski racer, so I had to ski on my own, though I had coaches. Um, but it taught you how to work with people. It taught you a different mindset, and I think it truly is important. And it's why I push a lot of families with children with disabilities into it. Is it also gives a social factor.
Okay. What uh when you first started this level playing field, what were the biggest challenges in starting this?
Oh, 100% getting people to take me seriously.
Really?
I'm a person with a disability.
Uh,
They're like, "Huh?"
yeah,
It's a lot of like, "Are you serious?" Um, but then I started to show some of the architects in Calgary, what they were designing wasn't working, and then all of a sudden they kind of stepped back and went, "Oh, you actually make sense." It definitely took some time, 100%. It took some time, but we're in our ninth year, and we've done very well. I now have 10 staff, so we're working on different projects, and I think the importance of people now starting to see it, and as I keep voicing it, we just need to make sure that spaces are inclusive. And we've had some major misses in the city, especially like the library, for example, which Dialogue knows I talk about all the time, was not one of our projects. But when you walk in, like, even if you can figure out how to get in,
yeah,
uh, then you see a grand staircase. And yeah, we like stairs, but at the same time, that's not a warm and welcoming feeling. And then the ramp was tucked away with no signage, and the elevators are hidden. There's a lot of things that have changed since it opened. Um, but it's that sense of, building a community and understanding that people like myself are valued.
yeah. Uh, when and you do travel a bit, I understand, but how would you rate what you see in Calgary, what you see in Canada to other places when it comes to accessibility?
Well, I think it's very like across Canada, there's some really good things, and then there's some what's going on here type scenarios. I think everybody's trying to work at it 100%. Um, I will say though, when I go to the States, it's way different because I'm treated as a human. I'm not looked at like an alien. Like especially in Canada, people just don't know what to do in stores and
Uh,
stuff like that. So it's a really awkward scenario where in the States it's they're just used to it and they treat us like regular members. So it's a lot different that way, but here's hoping as we start to see people transition more to understanding that we're out there, we want to be involved, we want to work.
mhm.
um, we definitely can't work if spaces aren't accessible because a lot of the time, especially in Calgary, our office towers are pretty awful.
Yeah.
Um, but it's the importance of trying to think, well, put yourself in my shoes. What would you want to do?
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. So what do you obviously with the staff and running a business, it's pretty busy. What do you do what do you do outside of work to kind of relax and enjoy yourself?
Well, I like I'm on the Saddle Dome Foundation board, so I definitely go to the rink pretty much for every event that we have if I'm in town. I actually kind of like that. I take, especially going to the hockey games when we were playing, though the Wranglers are still in, which is good. But that's sort of my relaxing time. As much as I take clients, I kind of enjoy that. But a lot of the times when we travel, I'm checking out different stadiums and arenas and different places. And that's sort of my fun little thing. I'm taking venue school right now through IAVM, which is the International Association for Venue Managers, because
Uh,
how can work in spaces when you don't truly understand how spaces work? Um, so I'm taking venue school and traveling around, and every time we go somewhere, trying to see a different space to see how they do it, so that we can learn. And that's somewhat of my passion and downturn to try and make things better for all of us.
Okay then, and yeah, I guess it's funny you mentioned that because I wonder like when you travel around if you're noticing things and seeing things in a different way, right? And like you know what because I do a lot of business stuff and retail stuff. I'm always, even on holidays, I'm looking at things and looking for ideas, right? And is that the way it is for you?
Oh, 100%. It's we're always looking for stuff and finding unique solutions and suggestions for projects. And yeah, you can't turn it off. And as a lot of my friends would say after they've hung out with me for a couple days, especially traveling, which is not easy.
Yeah.
100%, as I'm sure you've seen all the reports of the airlines and hotels and
Yeah.
everything. They're kind of like you can't turn it off. And
Yeah, exactly.
that's very true everywhere we go. But I make it a passion of mine. We stop in a location and I definitely go and try and find a museum or the theater or something to go check it out to see what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, that was wonderful. I appreciate you taking the time, Darby, to speak.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, that was Darby Lee Young, who is founder and principal accessibility strategist for Level Playing Field. I'm Mario Toneguzzi, managing editor of Canada's podcast, today with Calgary's podcast. Thanks for joining us.